If being too busy with life is holding back your drawing improvement, then this is the video for you. Because the truth is, we don't have to do long drawings, large drawings, complex drawings in order to improve, in order to learn. This video is about a strategy. It's a strategy of drawing a simple object, or probably more likely part of a simple object, for 5 or 6 minutes. Just a very small amount of time we can just squeeze in between finishing our breakfast and cleaning our teeth, or something like that. And as we draw it, we actively work out what's working with this, what's not working with this. What have I learnt by seeing what I've drawn compared to what I was trying to draw? If I were going to draw it again, how would I do it differently? Would I change the order? Did I fail to see something that I needed to see to draw it accurately, to align accurately? Did I think something was in a straight line when it was really sloped? Did I think two things were at an equal level when they weren't really? Did I get my curves right? Did I get my straight lines cornered correctly? Whatever. This is a great method of just targeting or discovering one or two small things. And therefore, whatever we discover, we learn from. And a great extension of this strategy is to draw the same thing 3 or 4 times over each day. 5 minutes each day for 2 or 3 or 4 days, drawing the same thing, refining not the drawing, but our thinking and our observing and our understanding of how we as an individual artist make our lines and think, and the order that we'd like to put things on paper so as to get the best outcome. Now, I've got two drawings in this video that are both 5-minute drawings. And they're very different subjects. The first is the top of a Paris street lamp. Now, these are subjects that I often put in my drawings, but they're very much support acts, and often they're in the distance, and so I don't draw them in a great amount of detail. In some ways, it's a relatively simple shape, but in other ways, there's just enough ornamentation to make it a bit tricky. And it was interesting to just draw this, but to still try and draw it fairly briskly. What did I look for? What were the key points to look for in my reference photo to give me the best chance of putting the lines in the right place? How were the proportions going to work out with the way I did it? And let me tell you that this is actually the second version I did of this drawing. The first version, I started in the same place, but I went up, and that top part that sits on top, that cap, the sort of the column part on top of the cap, I made too tall for the other proportions of the lamppost that I'd drawn. That told me that the technique that I'd used, the way I kind of just went straight up bit by bit, wasn't accurate enough for me, that the weak point of that, if you like, drawing strategy for that type of object was that each, if you like, section was just slightly too large, slightly too high. So the whole thing, though, then became considerably too high. And so when I draw it now, I actually draw it differently. I estimate the total height I want it to be, and I put a mark so that I can work up to that, and rather than just eyeballing each section as I go up and having an accumulation of errors. So this is what I mean when I talk about by doing a quick drawing, we're not trying to do a drawing that works, that is an artwork. We're trying to learn something about our process and to try different ways of drawing the same thing in just a few minutes and seeing how successful we are. And then learning from that, what's the best way for me, with the way I think and draw and observe, to get the most accurate result. So now you see, I start by defining pretty much the top of this section. And now I can control the height that I draw it far more easily, far more effectively. These reference photos, this one and the one that I'll draw next, are both going to be on my channel community page, so you can have a go yourself. My second subject is this corner bay window in the Swiss city of Zurich, I think, although it could possibly be Bern, so apologies if you live in either of those cities. But I thought this was a great contrasting exercise because it is very much almost completely straight lines, and it's creating a very different effect, a very different feel. And remember, the idea is that not that we're producing an artwork, but that we're learning about how we draw, how we observe, and what the best approach might be for us, what strategies we should be thinking when we're drawing freehand in ink. And so we need to make the best possible marks on the paper first time. And one thing I learned immediately is that initial line that went along the top of the cornice that sits above this bay window, I took it too far. I didn't have enough information to accurately draw it, and now it's about 0.5 centimetre too long, which is going to be a problem when I want to draw the side, the right-hand side line, angling down. So I've learnt that. Now it's too late with this, of course, to change it. But the whole point of this isn't to produce an artwork, it's to learn. And it's this learning that will lead to improvement, because the take-home lesson from this is that very first line, be cautious with committing too much length to it, because we don't really know, in lots of cases, how long it should be. So that was fairly important. Really, after that, what I'm mostly trying to do is to keep the proportions of this bay window accurate. I don't want it to look longer and thinner or shorter and fatter than the original. I want the perspective to look similar, because what I'm wanting to improve on is the accuracy of my freehand drawing to my reference. Therefore, I want to keep the proportions similar, correct. It doesn't need to be exact. I'm not trying to draw all the detail, but I certainly want to create the effect of the detail, the effect of 3 dimensions of various architectural elements and pieces of timber having depth as well as height and breadth. And the other thing that I take away from this drawing very consciously is that this right-hand side, as it slopes away, I've foreshortened it too much. I've made it just slightly too narrow, which I don't think really has a problem in this case. But if I'm aiming for accuracy in future drawings, if this is the improvement I'm wanting to have, then it's good noticing that maybe this is a tendency that I tend to go too narrow. And if I notice this in 5-minute drawing after 5-minute drawing, then I can focus on that in future 5-minute drawings, and of course then in my actual artworks as well. Because the whole idea is that all the lessons we learn in these little 5 minutes that we grab out of a busy day, when I sit down once a week or once a fortnight or once a month and I do a drawing that takes me half an hour or an hour or 2 hours, all of these little improvements can be incorporated into a great improvement in my drawing. It's a bit like learning the piano and just doing the scales every morning for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. We're not playing lengthy, complex pieces, but by just practicing some fundamental elements for a few moments each day, we can really improve for when we do tackle those large pieces. And I would say the best thing is to have a whole lot of these 5-minute drawing subjects ready to hand. Don't wait to find them in the busy morning or evening or whenever. But on the weekend, get 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 of them and have them all stacked wherever you draw, and have a piece of paper ready to go. And you don't need a large sheet of paper. These are, I think, done on a 1/4 A4 size pieces of paper. So you don't need to have a lot of expense or fuss. And by drawing them relatively small, keeps them faster, and therefore we learn our lessons faster. and it makes it easier to see as well. And I would probably recommend that you draw them actual size as your reference, unless you're wanting to practice enlarging or shrinking from your reference. So look, I hope you give this a go. These 2 photos are available on my channel community page. G'day, I'm Stephen Travers, but look, whatever you draw, however you draw it, however long you have to draw it, make sure you have fun. But give this a go. Have the references ready and have 5 or 6, 7 minutes out of a busy day as an investment to your drawing improvement. It really is easier to do than you think. The only difficulty, I think, will be to stop after 5 or 6 minutes and go to work or do whatever else you need to do. But that's another problem. But it's a great way, a great strategy to improve your drawing.